Hi, this is Dr. Sandy Queen with Queen Homeschool Supplies, and today I'm going to do a flip through of one of the books in our Discovering Nature and Science series called Let the Rocks Cry Out. And this book is geared toward 7th or 8th graders. Some kids using it will be younger or older. Like all of the books in the Discovering Nature and Science series from queenhomeschool.com, it has literature included in the curriculum. You will see here as I start turning pages at the very beginning, it's going to tell you the things that you will need as a teacher right here for the parent. Easy things that you'll need. Okay, as you go through the book, you're going to see every week starts with a chapter of an ongoing story that goes throughout the entire year. You'll read one chapter every Monday, and that chapter is going to introduce whatever it is that the child's going to be learning about that particular week. Okay, this one covers a lot of things like here we're starting out with clouds, different types of clouds, weather patterns, electricity. So here we're researching the water cycle, doing some creative writing on the water cycle, more about clouds. And then the following Monday, you'll see that they're going to have a new chapter of the story, this one introducing the atmosphere. So that's a couple pages long, and the chapters will vary in length, but every Monday is a chapter of the story. So now that we're learning about the atmosphere, the next day they would have an activity, and the next day again. Every week is going to be different depending on what they're learning about, but essentially they all start out with a chapter every Monday of the ongoing story, and then the rest of that week is spent doing activities. Here's chapter 3, and now we're learning about cycles. Okay, to everything there's a cycle, and now we're looking at some biblical principles here relating to what you're learning about this week. Writing assignment, a report on a Christian Scientist, different bodies of water, and now we have another chapter, the story. This one's about coffee, so everybody likes that, right? No, coffee is just the name of the chapter there. Okay, so we have that week's chapter, and now we're going to get into the activities for that week. Okay, here we have comparing sweeteners, how they are produced, benefits and detriments of different sweeteners. So you'll see some health. Of course, I'm a naturopathic doctor, so I like to incorporate that wherever possible, although I didn't write this particular volume. So here we have the next chapter of the story for the following week. And this is about a young man and his uncle who live in Hawaii and are street preachers. That's what the story is about. So here we're continuing to do different activities throughout the following, or that week that follow whatever's being talked about. This one happens to incorporate some herbs that are on the island that they talk about in the story. Okay, and now next chapter we're learning about clouds again, something different about clouds. And the rest of the week we're describing weather fronts and how you can recognize them, the different signs for those types of clouds, specific types, cold fronts, colliding fronts, what that creates in the weather patterns. Next chapter of the story talking about Alaska. Okay, and now we're going to learn about atom ionization and parts of an atom this week, light, the northern lights. So now the next chapter of the story is on light. And there's the chapter for that week. Okay, and now we're researching a specific Christian Scientist and writing something about them, and another one. Those are 2 different days worth. Now we're learning about wavelengths, light refraction. Next chapter, which is the next Monday. Okay, so we have that chapter on Monday. And then we're talking about ultraviolet light on Tuesday. Some fun facts about that because that was introduced in the story. Okay, now the history of ultraviolet light on Wednesday. Thursday, we're talking about hurricane preparedness as a hurricane was brought out in the story for this week, and researching different hurricanes that have happened around the world. Now we have a chapter on hurricane warnings. Okay, going over that and talking about different activities that go along with that, still focusing mainly on weather in these weeks. Okay, next Monday, next chapter, beginning of the storm. So we have a chapter about storms, different types of storms here for them to research and write, different the categories of different wind speeds, types of thunderstorms here, the forming of a tornado, research for them to do there. Next Monday, the eye of the storm. That's the chapter for this week. So the beginning focus of this particular book is a lot about weather, a lot about clouds, storm fronts, how to recognize different types of storms. Here's an activity that they'll do on tornadoes. And you will find that our book in the Living Science Reader series, here's the next chapter of the story. The book in our Living Science Reader story is called Reading the Weather, fits nicely with this one. Here's about sound waves. So now we're starting to learn about that. Researching sound, how sound reaches the ear. Next story, the 10 Commandments. So all of our books are from a Christian perspective. Okay, now we're talking about different types of sound waves. These are a couple over a period of a few days here. Okay. Next Monday, it's going to be about sound projection, as these two street preachers are going to project their message out into the crowd. Okay, here we have kinetic and potential energy, studying that for the rest of that week. Doppler radar, what an echo is, other types of waves in addition to sound waves. Okay, next chapter of the story. And now we're learning about heat. So we're moving on a little bit from weather, although there is still a connection there as well. Hands-on activity, thermodynamics, atmosphere, thermodynamics, potential energy, kinetic energy and potential energy, heat and hurricanes. There's that connection again between the heat and the weather, of course, and energy. Okay, wind energy. Okay, meteorology story for the next week here. So we have that, a couple days long, a couple pages long. And now we're learning about rain, geology, different activities for that week. Getting it, tying that together with creation science. What does the Bible say? And now the next chapter is about the layers of the earth. So again, getting more into rock classification and geology here. Different types of rocks. You see all those different types. Seismology. Okay, so now we're going to tie in the rocks and the seismic plates, seismology, different activities relating to that, Richter scale. Okay. Earthquake belts, that's sideways, but it won't be when you have your book and you can turn it. The next story is on volcanoes. So now we're learning more about volcanoes. There's a day of reading fun facts about volcanoes, researching volcanoes, theories of volcanic formation, different types of shapes of volcanoes. And now the next story is about the waves in the plates. Okay, so got that. The stories, again, always on Monday. The rest of the week, you'll see one page for each day that are activities relating to whatever was brought out in the story as the main focus for that week. Okay, the wind and the waves. So lots of energy type things. Wind, waves, solar energy, water energy, erosion, chemical weathering, different processes of change, hydrolysis. Next chapter of the story, they're running a marathon here. And we're talking about that a little bit. So a lot of variety you'll see, which really is nice because it breaks up one monotonous topic that goes through the whole year, but it also ties all the topics together throughout the science that's being brought out in each particular volume. That's how this whole series works, back to different types of rocks, and these are some other ones that we may not have looked at already. Okay. Next chapter of the story here. And we're looking at another type of rocks, hoodoo rocks, stalactites, stalagmites. And now we have a chapter of the story about kombucha. Okay, and what that's all about if you're not familiar. And then kombucha, the science behind kombucha and how it relates to what we're learning about in this particular chapter. So it's not just kombucha, although if you like, there's a recipe for how to make kombucha. Okay, more about different rocks, rock reflections, valleys, different types of soil, tying in some Bible. Okay, next chapter of the story. And here we're learning about probiotics and what that means. And fermented foods like kombucha. Okay, a little bit about essential oils. And again, these are all related to the story, but they are also tied in science-wise to what you are learning about that week. Magnetic force and gravity. That's what this week's about. Doing some research on gravity. Sorry, I'm not real smooth with my flip through. This is the second one I've ever done. Okay. Magnetic force. Looking at some different scientists. Again, we like to tie those in where possible if they are related to the theories that we're studying. Scientific method. Scientific theory, scientific law. What is a hypothesis? So another chapter on truths versus theories, presuppositions, talking about scientists and how they come up with those, different types of observation and evidence. Okay, solar energy here, chapter on that. Okay, researching how it's collected and stored, how it works, most common uses, where is it most popular, and the last chapter here. Okay, and here we're looking at preparedness tips, first aid kits because they have just weathered a bad storm and are looking into doing that for the future. Okay, and that's it. So I hope you have enjoyed the flip through of Let the Rocks Cry Out. This is available under the Discovering Nature and Science series at queenhomeschool.com. Thanks for watching.